I'm Katy Hallett, and I run the art programme for Sustrans. And I think already today we've heard a lot about the importance of public space, about the high quality public space, about the fact that people will choose to go on particular routes because the ambience of the route is enjoyable. People will go a little bit further, they'll take a detour in order to pass a favourite bench or a favourite tree, or to walk by the river or through a park. And we know that a lot of the city centres where there's been new work, there's redevelopments, including good design and working with artists, is quite a critical part. In fact, some of the cities and towns you're working in, the conferences are taking place in, I think Preston has a fantastic new city centre with some really beautiful new artworks. And Sustrans is very accustomed to this idea and to working with artists. In fact, we've been working with artists for the last 20 years. And we started with one or two projects up in the north with Consett to Sunderland route and on the Bath-Bristol route. And slowly, through our experience of working with artists, we know that very special routes can be made. And we know that an artist is often able to look at things with a fresh eye, to consider the locality of a place, to make distinctive landmarks and distinctive areas that people can enjoy. And in many ways, artworks can become destinations in their own right. They can help to interpret a particular area. So it's very much with this in mind, we started thinking, how could we make something, what could we make, what could we think of that would link all the different connecting projects together, so that they would each one be distinct and individual, and yet the idea would be one common idea throughout all the connecting projects. So we were looking at ideas and ways of using different people, the images of different characters, and we came up with the proposal that we would make a portrait bench, and the portrait bench would be cut out pictures, cut out images of local people, local historical characters, fictitious characters, in fact anybody that the steering group for each project felt were appropriate. So here, just before the Connect to application, we then prototyped this idea, and using 3 different figures, we looked at how those images could be created using very, very thick slate steel, and how the images could be reduced to simply light and dark, black and white, so that you could still recognise who each of the characters were. Okay, so when we were deciding how to go about this, we made prototype figures and took various photographs. In fact, Jonty, who happens to be here, was one of the figures we chose. And Jonty, go and stand behind your figure, this one here. So that's the figure he was. And just to stand out a little bit. Stand out a little bit, and that's the figure. So you can see how very reduced the figures were, and yet with just a small detail you can still recognise the figures themselves. So we want each of the schemes to decide who the figures are, who the characters are that are going to be portrayed in your own portrait bench. They could be a local sports hero, it might be local children, it could be a lollipop lady or the Lord Mayor. Here in Bristol there's talk of perhaps Brunel talking to Wallace and Gromit. In Tintern Abbey they're talking about possibly some figures of monks that are sort of wandering through the trees and then come to this particular bench. So every single bench will have its own ideas, its own take on who they want to portray in the portrait bench. And of course the bench will be put out in front of the figures, but they are both directional. You could go one side or the other. And the idea is that you could stand on either side and have your photograph taken with the Connect to project in sight. So you might sit at one side and look at the project, or you might have your photograph taken from the other side with the project in the background. It's possible as well that the choice of figures could be through some kind of competition. It could be through a school's workshop where perhaps we give out some disposable cameras and young people take a lot of photographs. You can put up this whole gallery of portraits and then to have a competition as to which of the figures would be the ones that are chosen. So really there's many ways you could come to those images, and it's up to each group to decide. So each one will be individual as the leaves on a tree, and yet they'll all be part of the same overall project.